traffic in this town is there's no real consistency or ability to like know what the hell's going on, you know? It's a crapshoot. And then if you want to be consistent with planning, you always need to have like a 2 hour buffer. Like it's like even if you're going like 15 miles, it's like, well, traffic can get bad and all of a sudden it's gonna take an extra 2 hours. So gotta plan. And it's like, oh, so I gotta be everywhere in
Yeah.
LA 2 hours early. Okay. Awesome.
Oh, but
Awesome
I'm
use of time.
excited. Oh yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, traffic, no fun. But I was gonna say, I'm excited for your new for the accelerator. I don't know if for people that are joining later, if you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah. Hey Brian, how you been? Brian, um,
Oh,
if you wanna join us and use your microphone and camera to ask questions, you gotta join as an official member of Startmata. But you can do so for free as a subscriber, 60-day trial, easy peasy, and then it's only $2 a month. I'm sure you can afford that. So yeah, but feel free. You should be able to use text, so you can say hi and use the text chat in the meantime. And then, yeah, anyone that's watching on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I didn't forget LinkedIn. I remember you on LinkedIn. All right, feel free to use the text chat, and I will relay any comments or questions you may have for Irina. Um, Irina, how would you like to introduce yourself? We got caught up talking about LA bonding moments.
no, that's true. Sure. Yeah, for anyone joining, happy to answer any questions. Background in everything data algorithms, from inventing algorithms, implementing them all over many different industries, small companies, global companies, led data teams, taught many graduate students how to do the same thing. And I now help VCs and accelerators evaluate the AI startup, kind of wearing the product hat, the technical hat, VC hat, all the hats. So happy to answer any questions around strategies for pitches, pitch decks, fundraising, AI, anything in between, accelerators. Um, yeah, questions are welcome. And
Awesome.
I
I
know
am.
Brian's will be back. Oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I am just posting your LinkedIn profile in the chats. So if anyone wants to dig into your extensive background and area of expertise, or I should say areas of expertise, they can do so and ask any questions related to that. And also, like, anyone that wants to know how to follow a similar career path as Irina, feel free to ask that too. But if you're a founder or an investor, accredited investor looking to get involved in the ecosystem, feel free to ask questions about that as well, or anything else that you have a shared interest in that you see on Irina's profile, or if you hear as we're talking. Brian, I'll drop a link for you. Give me 1 second. While I do that, Irina, since there are a lot of applications coming up right now for accelerators, incubators, other such programs, um, I would love to hear your take on how to best position yourself when applying to a program or a VC that has an intake form.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And yeah, Brian's question was how to join as a member. And so Gary's sharing that link for those joining later. Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say there's kind of a couple different areas. One is being able to tell the story in a plain language way so that everyone can follow along. Because I feel like a lot of startups forget that the reviewers are not experts as much as we do want to be in all of those areas. And so a lot of the time, I need a bit more context around what is the problem, why is it really a problem, and what is the solution, in again a really really simple follow along way. um, and a lot of that work in the accelerators definitely will help you with that, but being able to explain why there's a need. I think the story um, will go a long way. The other one is just, as there are many, many accelerators. And so figuring out almost what are the gaps that you have right now that the accelerator can fill. And what I mean by that is, what stage, what industry, what does the programming look like? What are the mentorships look like? Do you need mentoring? Hopefully you do. Do you need help with product? There's many different accelerators that are focused on different areas. And I would say those two probably set apart most of the applications. When I review an application, there is a guideline by the accelerator of what they look for. And then one thing that I try to do is, even before I do that, is can I even have a sentence or half a sentence figuring out what it is that you do, what it is that the company does. And if I can't even do that, that becomes a challenge, not just to evaluate, but to figure out, you know, what type of mentor do you need? What type of support do you need? And then, if I may, Gary, throw that question back to you. And then also, then my second part to that question, if I may, because as you know, you've just joined the Founders Boost Glendale, which I'm super excited about. And even to, as you know, this is going to be the second accelerator in LA. If you can even talk about the difference between those two, because I think a lot of people maybe don't even understand the nuances there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you set that up perfectly, and nice.
Pleasure.
But I mean, like, yeah, but it's really important what you're talking about, and it comes down to matchmaking, right? And so much of your success in any area, whether it's personal or business, and a wide range of different aspects of each of those realms, right? Like how you have a successful romantic relationship, if you have fulfilling friendships, how you build a career successfully, how you build a business successfully, how you fundraise, how you hire, all these things. It's all about being an expert matchmaker. And it starts with, like you kind of like, explain, understanding who you are, what your values are, what your culture is, what matters to you and why that matters. And then aligning that with the correct people that are going to be supportive of that and fuel that and push you to be the best version of yourself or the best business that you can have, or the most lucrative expert in your field, right? So with that kind of like being the foundation of it all, yeah, you want to take the time to absolutely understand what your strengths and weaknesses are with your business, your startup that you're building, and make sure that you're targeting the correct programs that have an investment thesis that aligns with you, but also has the correct curriculum, correct support for the stage you're at. And this comes up a lot. It's come up a lot so far, just in my very short time with Founders Boost. Like at the mixer we just threw, there's a number of founders there, and it was interesting when I'm asking them, what stage they're at with their startup. So often they're like, "Oh, we're pre-seed, we're pre-revenue," and it's like those things on their own don't tell a story. It doesn't tell me what stage you're at. Like, it's a little component of that, but especially when you're trying to talk to others and use fundraising rounds as the main qualifier of what stage you're at, pre-seed, seed, like series A, friends and family, like these things have no real standard meaning between everyone in the ecosystem. They mean drastically different things even in the same ecosystem. Like if you're in Silicon Valley, like a pre-seed round could, for one person, mean they're raising $100,000, while another founder is saying pre-seed to raise $15 million, right? So instead, think about what milestones you're at, what you've accomplished, what validation you have, what traction you have, and hone in on that more when you're thinking about what stage you're at, and then what you're trying to connect with, different investors or programs to support you. So going back to like your question that you asked me with Founders Boost, the Glendale programs focused on startups that are in the market, they have product validation, they don't quite yet have product market fit, which is something that we want to help with. So they have revenue, they have users, they have customers, they're gaining more of that high quality engagement with those people, and they're learning a lot from them. They're engaged in an iterative cycle to gather real data from real customers, real users, to either continuously optimize what they're doing in the market with their product and services and their branding, or they're discovering some of those critical points of failure with their assumptions that require pivots. Either, little minuscule pivots, maybe like changing who that target customer profile is and why them, or, those bigger pivots where it's like, oh, okay, well, we're kind of hitting a wall here in regards to what we think is like the hot product, area for us. But all the data showing us this incredibly lucrative, more promising opportunity. So we're going to focus on that instead. So that's like the main thing for the Glendale. Oh, another thing with Glendale is B2B. Focus on B2B. But LA Founders Boost program is open to anything. It's a little bit earlier stage, so it's even like founders that are kind of like in the discovery stage, even where they're trying to get that idea into tangible form and into the market, and pursue that. I want to go back to you now, and you talked about like demonstrating more clearly the problem solution, right? The framing that I always like kind of think about as an alternative problem solution is experience, benefit, value. What's the experience you're providing people through your brand, your product or service? Why is that experience enjoyable for them? And how is that beneficial and thus valuable? I'm curious when, we think about pitch decks and landing pages, a lot of people use a lot of words to describe these things. Some of them use some visuals, some of them use videos. In your opinion, your experience, what are some of your favorite ways to see a founder, a team, demonstrate what that experience is with their product or service, and how you're getting the benefits and what those benefits are?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I'm just taking notes. Yeah. To frame kind of my answers, but yeah, no, this is really good. And then I will say, Brian, if you have a question, also feel free, obviously. But yeah, no, this is really good. So maybe I will start with kind of some don'ts to start. But again, as always, I have to tell people, especially around pitch decks, is this is just one opinion, and you ask 100 people, you're going to get 250 different opinions on your pitch deck. So I'm also interested, Gary, in hearing your takes on this as well, obviously, especially the ones that differ. But I would say my one don't, or a couple, one is, I see a lot of visuals, but if the visual doesn't actually add more context, then that actually takes away from the conversation. So what I mean by that is, this is especially true when I'm seeing applications for accelerators where people will upload videos, but when I've reviewed founder pitches as well for VCs, and someone will reach out for me to do that as a consulting service, where I'll say, okay, this is our website, this is our pitch, and this is our demo video. And the demo video is like, I don't want to say AI generated, but is based on also a theoretical question, a theoretical product. So in short, though, when I'm evaluating pitch decks, part of it is, part of why we're looking at things is evaluating risk, right? Every startup is risky. And what we're trying to see is, okay, where are risks that investors are comfortable with and which ones they're not, and kind of presenting them an idea of, I would say, like kind of a list of, hey, here's something to dig into, or this, where, what's manageable and what's not manageable. And so being able to, every time you have a conversation, or whether that conversation is online on your website, just making it clear about what is actually the problem and what is actually the solution and what is that experience. I think a lot of startups forget the experience part. So what I mean by that is, they will say, okay, we have AI, we have the tech, it's doing all of the shiny stuff, but at the end of the day, it's okay, but what does the customer get? Like, if you're telling me I'm saving the customers, let's say 30 minutes of your time every day, close that loop for me. Like, how does that actually happen? Like, what is their workflow now? How does the current product tie into that? And how do they actually save that time? Really dumb it down to make it super clear so that anyone looking through it could just say, oh, that makes sense. This is how that's going on. Yeah. 37% of time savings, and it's not clear, right? Like, where is that coming from? And making the visual clear, or making the maybe it's a demo of, okay, how do they actually go through that workflow? So being able to do that end to end is a big, I see a lot of startups forget to do that. I mean, the other part that I see, kind of as a don't, is it's not clear that things are a problem, and then also that it's a real problem. And what I mean by that is, a lot of the time startups will start with a solution, but it's not clear to me of, well, is there an actual need? I don't have enough context to understand, like, what is actually going on in the business. Or on the flip side, I will have a lot more context, and this is actually, I see this a lot, unfortunately, with technical founders that are trying to disrupt healthcare, which, I understand why. There's a lot of points, there's a lot of problems, but I'll see a pitch and a solution, and my answer is, well, I wish healthcare worked this way, but that's not actually how that works, and that sucks. So then the solution doesn't actually tie into what's going on. Again, easier said than done. What I've seen a lot, that I like, is almost, take as long as you need in your pitch deck to actually explain the problem. I feel like a lot of startups will say, oh, maybe it needs to be a sentence, or it has to be one slide. If it takes you 3 or 4, that's fine. If you need stuff in the appendix, again, one opinion, but make it really clear so that anyone in the audience or anyone that's reading it will take a step back and say, wow, that is a real problem. Because until I'm on that page, until I get there, everything else you tell me, I haven't bought in yet. And so I feel like the first almost like milestone is, make me feel that pain and make it be clear, who is that customer. And what I mean by that is, we talked about B2B, right, for the Glendale, but who is that B2B? Is it a small manufacturer of a sustainable, you know sustainable, let's say, clothing or shoe, but is the shoe for, women's size so and so? So then I can imagine myself who that customer is and what are they actually doing. And I feel like a lot of the pitch decks miss that part, where they go, oh, I think the experts already know this, and I'll just skip to the solution, and then there's a gap. So I would say, just making sure that the demos add value to what you pitched, tying things end to end, and just making sure that the problem is really, really a problem will go a long way. I've seen some, if I may, like on the don'ts, when we talked about visuals, I review also life science and med tech. And I fainted at the sight of blood. And so when the visuals are kind of like the, anatomy, with the Latin labels of like in Latin of what are the body parts, and I'm like, oh my god, like I don't understand what's going on. Or I've had like now a couple of videos submitted where it was like surgery, and one, like, to me that makes me really queasy. Two, I'm not a doctor, I don't understand what's going on in the surgery. And three, I don't actually understand where your product is in that surgery. I'm just like, am I looking at your product in there or not? And then it just becomes like, I don't want to watch, I want to turn away. And you just lost me. So again, like, I'm very flattered when, I took physiology and we did, like dissected stuff in high school, for better or for worse, but like, I don't want to be looking at that at pitch decks. But I've also have there's also accelerators, since I mentor also at healthcare accelerators, had companies where the other mentors on the team said, no, you want the shock factor, you want that in there. So again, this is one opinion, and I think just like how you talk about it, what you show, when you're showing it, maybe if you clearly label like before or after, maybe there's a video of like, this is the current state and this is how it is with our product, or some sort of a making it more accessible will be okay. But again, depending on what you're going for, you're going the shock factor, or you're going for the problem or the solution, making that more clear. Hopefully that helps. I don't know, Gary, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, no, I think it's very helpful, especially, calling attention to what not to do. Um, yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to use a video, for a couple reasons. I harp on this all the time, especially when I'm doing the workshops to practice pitching or go over pitch decks and landing pages. It's the videos specifically, especially if you're using them as a pitching kind of like device or a tool to pitch. It's requiring too much attention from someone, especially an investor, right? Or, program manager at an accelerator. Unless a application process specifically asks for a video, don't use a video as a primary tool. Avoid it. It's just, again, a lot of people are super busy, super overwhelmed, they're multitasking. If they have the option to skim a pitch deck or watch a video, they're always going to skim. They have control over that. They don't have to stop doing what they're doing to multitask more. A video is going to make them focus only on the video, and it's going to make them frustrated and annoyed and a billion other things. Some people, yes, may enjoy a video, but you always want to have a video as like a supplemental tool and another option to a well-designed pitch deck or landing page doing the pitch for you. With what you're saying, contextualize things. Absolutely. If you're using the visuals, you want to make sure that everything's contextualized. My favorite way of seeing this, experiencing this, is a slideshow, storyboards, right? You storyboard the actual experience that people are having, like what you talked about with what size shoes, right? What size women's shoes, and how you want to have that human connection to the experience that this person, that this founder or team is trying to highlight to you, is more relatable. You want to make it as relatable as possible. So if you take this storyboard approach where you're walking us through a day in the life of essentially of a person experiencing the problem, right? That's very clear. It's very humanizing as to what it is that you're trying to address with a problem in the market or the industry that you've created a solution for, right? And if you lead with that, you start with that, it makes it very easy as a story structure to follow the plot and get invested emotionally. And again, feel this relatability to the story you're telling and the characters in that story. And then you move on to the solution, which is your product or service, and you do the same thing. You walk us through what that experience is through storyboard visuals. And the storyboards of your product screens and the people using your product or experiencing the problem that exists before you show us the solution, it allows us to have enough context to understand how someone experiences these things, where they start, where they go next, and how it plays out as they try to get a specific type of experience, a specific benefit, or group of benefits, and what those frustrations are that's creating the problem, and what those wonderful successes are with using your product, your service as the alternative. And that allows it to be much easier to understand where the value is in all those things. And yeah, like you're saying, stay away from all the technical jargon. Don't get too into the weeds. That's like a big problem with founders that are technical engineers, right? Like they get very hung up on all those little super geeky details with everything. But like you said, who cares? It doesn't matter what technology you're using, what stack you're using, how advanced any of this stuff is. If it's not clear how you're providing very specific people in the market that you're after a more enjoyable experience and better benefits or easier access to the benefits than what exist already, right? So yeah, you did a great job of like highlighting that and calling attention to that. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, Bev, I know Bev. Bev, yeah, if you email me, if you want me to do that, I can take a look in my time. Um, as mentioned, I'm now program manager of the Founders Boost Glendale program accelerator. If it's B2B, feel free to apply. Just go to my profile on LinkedIn. You'll find a link to Founders Boost, or just go to Google Founders Boost, and then you can see the different locations, and then follow the crumbs to apply to the Glendale program. It's B2B. If it's not B2B, do the same thing for the Los Angeles program. Yeah, it's worth the try. And if I'm reviewing or someone else is reviewing, there's a good chance you'll get some notes or some feedback through that as well. And then I'm doing a pitch to your peers workshop to review pitches and landing pages later this week. I think on Wednesday. So yeah, keep an eye on that. But yeah, if you have specific questions for Irina, please ask it. If you're interested in anything related to fundraising or VC investors, due diligence, AI, data, anything. Yeah, I'll post Irina's link again so you can take a look at her background and everything. So real quick, AJ has a question on YouTube. AJ's asking, what's your take on discovering product market fit? And this is a good question for you, Irina, because you love data. So, there's a lot of confusion with founders where they conflate problem solution fit with product market fit. Do you want to take a stab at explaining the differences between the two?
Sure.
And then share how you go about tracking and identifying if you have product market fit?
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And I also see, I think before we get to this question, I saw Brian had a question in the chat. And then for Bev, I will put, so I know her question was just, can you just proofread my deck? So this is supposed to be office hours for everyone. So we don't do one-on-one coaching here, but I will put, since this is general questions and Gary already added resources for you. For those that are also curious, I hosted a workshop. This was last year. This is a recorded. The slides are available. It is a reverse pitch where we walk through a generic deck that I see time and time again, and then walk through step by step how to make that more attractive. We go through 3 different iterations. I think at the recording, there's at least 2 that I go through live with an audience. We take different industries from the audience and then walk through like how to make that more specific. And for those that are watching, if you can't see the link, it's my website, ikukuyeva.com/community/presentations. And then you look, and one of them is the reverse pitch workshop. And then Brian will get to your question next. So yeah, really good really good question. And so I would say the difference is you want to find a solution to a real problem. The product market fit is the added part of, are people willing to pay you for it? And pay you for it also in a way that will generate revenue. And when VCs are looking at it, is it also venture scalable? So let me digest And then we can talk about step by step, and I'll reference a talk that I gave also. So it's a yeah, let me yeah, let me maybe drop the links in the chat, and then I can go through it for those that are either joining. So when I talk about a venture scalable business, this was actually a blog post, and I'll give the takeaways. It had earlier this year, or actually, sorry, this month. Of first, let's understand how VCs work. So again, for those joining later, it's my website, kukuyeva.com/blog, and then and then look under founders, and it's the first one at the top of just understanding how VCs make money. So to understand, kind of explains why VCs look for those unicorns, and how does it tie into how they make business, and when you exit, and when they take equity and ownership, and how does that work in different rounds. And then for the product market fit question, it's one thing that, and it's easier said than done to say, okay, well, will people pay you for it? And will people pay you for it repeatedly? Is another what you'll find is it's much easier to upsell existing customers than it is to get new ones. And it's always a question that, VCs ask is, what are your customer acquisition costs? How long are they staying? What is what does the funnel look like? So I will share a link for one more talk, and we can go through it together if that's helpful. I created this talk last year for LA Tech Week. One of the Mucker Capital actually invited me to speak on this topic. So again, for those joining somewhere else, it's ikukuyeva.com/community/presentations, and it's the AI product integration talk. And what I talk about there is every business is bringing value to customers, right? We talked about it in the first question, just like, how do we bring those value? How do we bring those benefits? Then I walk you through one, like quantifying what that is, and then also quantifying what does your business look like. And there was a talk a few years ago now by Phil Libin of Evernote, and his main idea was every business has 14 different, can be summarized by 14 different customer flows between new customer acquisition to upsell to high value customers, churn, retention, all of those fun things. And I'll actually add that if you're a marketplace, you also have a set of customers. You have your supply, your demand, your hardware. You have all that other third arm of getting from the idea to the prototype all the way to delivery to your customer side. So being able to track what are those flows, and what is the time between those events? What are some metrics? What does the revenue look like? To see where are things that could be optimized. Because what I found is that if you found your product and solution, and you have data to see where are your customers more engaged, if you kind of hone in on that, that will help you differentiate yourself. And if those customers are also paying you, will get you to product market fit faster. It is definitely nonlinear. You're going to try a bunch of things along the way. There's going to be many, lots and lots of friction, lots of challenges. But in short, this is where I've seen a lot of customers do well. So being able to approach things in, for lack of a better, product-led growth way, where you're tracking to see, when I make this change, how does that impact? When I'm changing one thing over another, how does that work? What was that effect? How is that engagement? Because one thing that I see, and especially with technical founders, where they'll say, okay, we're just going to build this feature, and it's okay, but how many customers were using the thing that it's built on? Because if 3 people are using it and you build another feature and you spend so much time, is that actually going to be valuable? So being able to focus on that will help you, extend your runway, focus on the right things. And I'll actually be giving that talk at Grid 110 at the end of April, and I'm told there will be a recording. There was supposed to be a recording last October, but I'll post it as soon as that's available. So hopefully that helps. AJ, if you have follow-up questions, feel free to put them in the chat or ask Gary, and we'll surface that up. Yeah. Should we go on to, I don't know, Gary, is there anything you wanted to add before we go to Brian's question?
No, you did a great job, and I think the one addition I'd add is because of the landscape with the world right now. Um, like a lot of VCs, once they raise the fund, they have a due diligence or they have a duty to deploy those funds according to their investment thesis and what they, sold their investors on. So there's a little bit of capital to be deployed there. But for new funds raising, money to act on, because of interest rates and because of a lot of uncertainty in the environment right now, it's a little bit harder. And then for the angels and other types of entities that are making investments at different stages of companies, especially like the ones that are focused on early stage, it's so much more important for founders to really hone in on building a legitimate business and operating a legitimate business and not trying to do the crap that was, real popular the last like 20 years where we just need to get a bunch of users. We don't need to worry about revenue yet. We'll figure out how to monetize later. You're not running a business. you're just losing money. Like there's no business there. So it's really important to, do things right, have a sound foundation for your company to stand out as a legitimate deal for investors to feel that you're going to be capable of achieving the level of possibilities that you're selling to them. Because like so much at the early stages, here's our potential and we're going to be the next unicorn. That's what pretty much every founder is trying to, convince investors of. But the deals that are getting done are the ones that investors feel there's less risk involved. So there's fewer assumptions, there's more data to back up your claims, to show that you're trending in the right direction. And more than that, you have a sound methodology for how you arrive at these assumptions, how you test these assumptions, how you learn from those tests, and apply that to continuously overcome the adversity that you're faced with and will be faced with as you go forward, and continuously build a sound business and make their money work for them. So that's like the only little bit. I'm gonna bring up Brian so we can have a conversation. All right, there you go. And Brian, you can feel free to expand on your question too. All right, there you go. Okay. Your microphone is showing it muted. Great seeing you again. It's been a while, man. So on our end, there you go. All right, go for it.
Super. Thanks so much for hosting. And I have a question. So I'm in the ideation phase, really trying to understand how I can bring value with the strengths and the skill sets that I have. And along that journey, I've identified a problem based off of, say, research I found on some Deloitte and Accenture reports or industry articles that are out there that says knowledge attrition is this big issue at companies and it's costing companies billions of dollars. But yet I go in to talk to, say, the heads of HR or a CEO of a 400-person company, and I said, so knowledge attrition is this big issue you have, right? And I'm going to solve it. And they're like, not really. Or they're like, yeah, it's a problem, but we're figuring it out. We're just, we're continuing to do what we do. So my question is, how do I, I understand finding a problem to solve is important. How do I validate that problem's a real problem that needs to
Mhm.
get solved and that companies are willing to, pay for a solution to that problem and
Yeah.
prioritize that problem?
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a really good question. And I would say it comes up, I would say, probably every single time I mentor at all the accelerators. And I think that is a very valid question. And I'm glad you are asking that. So, kind of, I would say three different parts. And then, Gary, you know what I'm going to tag you into because we do tag team on this one as well. Um, so, the first one, and I will have Gary talk about the front door tag because I feel we talk about that also every single time. So I'll have Gary talk about that part. um, I will say being able to do that customer validation, and we'll talk about how. The other thing is making sure you're approaching the right customer. Because, for instance, you approached HR because maybe that's where your connections were, but are they actually seeing that problem? And maybe is the knowledge attrition actually with, let's say, the um, team that's on the manufacturing floor. And so when you talk to them, they will say, oh yeah, that is a real problem, versus HR may not see it because the manufacturing team is working overtime and it's not like they're approving the timesheets or anything. And I will say there's been a couple of startups, one that has graduated from Techstars that I actually had the pleasure of mentoring, which was in that space, and it was in the airplane engine parts diagnostics, because they do have that problem that right now, if it sounded like, and hopefully I'm can mention it, it's Kilsar, Kilsar. They went through Techstars Aerospace, I want to say, one or two cohorts ago. And so being able to explain, why, and going to the right customer made a real difference. And being able to say, okay, right now things are on paper, or if this engine goes down, and I'm ad-libbing a little bit. You have to fly in a different person to fly it in, and then the plane is stranded and nobody can use it for a week, right? Like, that's a real problem that translates into, again, half making it up, like six figures, I guess, depending on the plane and things like that. So being able to talk about that will make a real difference. And I will say, when we're doing diligence, that is also a question that comes up, is who is your target customer, but also who's going to pay for it. And sometimes that's a different person, especially if you're in healthcare. The question comes up of, what does the reimbursement look like? And a lot of startups will say, oh, well, it'll be just the cash patient. I'm like, well, great, but how much cash do we have? So again, thinking about that, easier said than done, but having that story of maybe you start with HR, but maybe there's something else, or maybe you'll see, okay, again, or is it manufacturing or the other department, or maybe they can make introductions, but being able to find the right, because just because somebody says it's not a problem, right? It could be it's not a real problem, or you're not talking to the right person. That's the one challenge. Yeah, I will stop here, and I don't know, Gary, do you want to talk about the front door tag or anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah. So yeah, I posted like a little bit in chat, but like yeah, like so it had, like, as most things, there's different names for the same thing. So yeah, I was looking up fake door test, and I see painted door test. I see a couple other variations of it, but essentially the concept is that you test your product, your service, in a setting that presents it as being available to people, right? So it doesn't actually exist yet. It's at most a set of wireframes, so you understand what your product will be, and you know what you want to build and how it should be built, and all those nuances for what the real product is going to be that you want to sell to people. And you you reference those documents that you've created to create pixel perfect mock-ups of very specific screens if it's an application software, and you essentially create a landing page that demonstrates, as we talked about earlier, right? You demonstrate what the product user flow is, what that experience will be using the product by storyboarding that, that user flow. And you have a very clear call to action to get the product, buy the product, right? Because what you're trying to test is how many people in the market actually want to buy this product that I want to bring to the market, right? You haven't built anything, you haven't coded anything, you haven't gone to any manufacturers or, whatever. It's just a bunch of mocked up, images to demonstrate this and give the illusion that the product exists. Now, that's like the core concept. How to do this effectively, ethically, my version of this is on the landing page, I'll have a big banner at the top that says early access window closing soon. So everyone that's, part of this test has the expectation that they may not get the product because the access window may close soon, right? When someone tries to get the product, when they click the call to action to buy the product, it takes them to another page. It records that someone, tried to do it, because that's what you're testing for, and you want to keep track of how many visitors, unique visitors did we have, how many conversions did we have that went to the call to action to get the product. When they hit the call to action, it takes them to a new page. The new page says at the top, sorry, early access window closed. Then what you want to do, you present them with the join the waitlist form. You do this for two reasons. You never ever want to put, join the waitlist out in front where no one has to go through any hoops. You want to make sure you're only adding people to your waitlist that were qualified as trying to get the product. They actually want your product. Because if it's on the front page without any barriers to entry, you're going to get a lot of people that are joining that are just interested. Maybe they just have like FOMO. They don't really care. They don't, know what any of this is. There's, weirdos that like to join stuff or something like that, right? You want to get rid of all those people. You want to have a wait list that is as qualified as possible so you can feel more confidence in reaching out to them when the product is ready, assuming that all these tests go well and you feel like this is something worth bringing to the market. You want to make sure that you have a high quality of conversion rate with that wait list, okay? So those are like the kind of like basic kind of highlights for running a fake door test. But yeah, the goal of doing a fake door test is to, number one, make sure that what you're offering to the market is what people want, and test that and see how they respond to it. Two, save yourself a lot of time, a lot of money building something that no one wants. Three, when you're interacting with these people with this fake door test, give yourself more opportunity to collect invaluable data from them. And I don't mean like, just random metrics that you build into your website, but through conversations, by talking to these people, following up with them, right? If you're doing this in a controlled way, where you're not just, only throwing like an ad on, I don't know, like Google to direct people to this like landing page for this test, if you're instead being very intentional about individuals that you're reaching out to, much like you already did, Brian, right? Like you went and you talked to very specific HR people. Well, if you talk to those HR people as a beginning, and then you send them to the the landing page where you've got these beautiful mock-ups to really demo what the product will be, but in their mind, oh, it already exists, I can get this, and they don't get it. Well, you know who you reached out to, you know who you sent to the landing page to. Well, now you can have a conversation and dig into why. Well, Yeah, I'm really interested. I'm curious about your thoughts. Like, is this like not a good fit for you? Is there something that's missing? Start that conversation, and then you want to kind of go in a couple different directions. You want to get a deeper understanding about what their current lived experiences are, what their past lived experience were, as it relates to this product, the market, their industry, and the type of experiences they're having, which are frustrating or annoying or bad, and also good. And really honing on, those two like extremes to come up with better assumptions about what your product should be to fill in those gaps, provide them with a better experience, more benefits, more value with all this stuff. But also start to understand their workflows and where the product fits in and who the stakeholders are that would be part of your ecosystem, like Irina was talking about, right? Well, the HR person might be not be the main person experiencing this problem, this frustration that you're trying to address, or might not be the stakeholder within the ecosystem that's going to get the most value and benefits out of this. There could be other stakeholders along this whole logistical chain, this operational chain of an organization, and understanding who each of these different individuals are and what their contributions, are in the bigger scheme of things allows you to do a couple things with what Arena's talking about is know who to talk to really make sure your product is going to provide all the benefits and value that you expect it to, but also know who you need to talk to convince that this is something that's going to benefit their organization and make them look good to their other bosses, or if it's the business owner themselves, make the business owner know that they're going to make the lives easier of their employees. Their employees are going to be happier, more, like having, a better experience working for them, while also making them more money, being more productive, doing all these different elements that a business wants and needs, right? But you really want to start with like that fake door test to start running those experiments and again, do that in a controlled manner so you can follow up with them and get the most in-depth contextualized data possible. Also building a relationship with them, because that's always like, the best thing you can do as you go and do these tests and pivot and whatever else. Well, these people, you've got a relationship with them, they feel connected to you. They might not be your target customer profile any longer as you discover new things, but they probably know people who are, and they like you, and they like what you've been doing and how you interact with them, so they'll make them introductions to you or for you, or send you down the path to connect with the right people. So, always be thinking big picture with all this stuff and building real authentic relationships. But yeah, I'll try to find something that's a good link for fake door tests. Most of them are related to UX products that they're trying to sell, but you can get the gist of them. Yeah. Any
I
other?
would say maybe, yeah, no, this is good. I would say maybe Kickstarter is probably the closest. I would say Lego Ideas, although you don't put money down for Lego Ideas, but that's usually an example. Kickstarters, as you know, things are not guaranteed and you are actually putting money down. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, with Kickstarter, if you're going to use Kickstarter as like a way to test your product, to really go for product validation as a tool, it's a little bit later stage. You don't want to rush to putting out a Kickstarter campaign before you, one, have all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed in regards to the logistics, the manufacturing, the production, the timelines for all those things, the cost for all these things. You want to make sure that you've got, real sound financial models in place, and you understand if that campaign is a success, you got to follow through. You have a duty to do that, because you've actually sold product. That's what Kickstarter is. It's a pre-sale campaign. You're selling product with extra benefits and little rewards attached to it, but ultimately you're selling product, right?
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, I agree. Do not
yeah,
recommend everyone going on Kickstarter, but yeah, completely agree.
yeah,
Just as an idea of how are others structuring it, but yeah.
no, yeah.
Hopefully that helps. I apologize that I have to jump. This has been great. Questions have been great. Looking forward to joining more sessions. Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'll probably send you more blog posts and talks, but otherwise, see you at the next one.
You're awesome.
Well, thank
You're
you for
always
having
great.
me.
It was fun
I
catching
love our
up.
discussions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate you, Irina. We'll have you back for sure. I'd love to do more panels with you. You kind of turned this into a panel.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds good. I'm looking forward to mentoring the Founder Boost.
Yes.
And
Yes.
obviously 805 as well. But yeah, have a good day, everyone. See you later.
Cool. All
Bye.
right.